Welcome to Sports and Songs Podcast, Season 2, Episode 49. Today is November 6th, 2021. We are your hosts, Dan and Andy. Andy, how you doing today?
Doing good. How about you?
Good. You know, we've got baseball wrapping up, winter sports cranking up.
Yep.
And next week will be our season premiere of Season 3.
Yes.
Hopefully
Very
we'll
exciting times here.
A greatest hits from Season 2 and put that out in time for the Christmas shopping holidays.
Right.
Volume 2.
Yes.
But this is our final episode for Season 2. We kick into Season 3 next time. We got lots to talk about: music, sports, concerts, your soapbox, my trivia question, all sorts of goodies.
Yeah. Well, let's start with, first of all, a little disclaimer. Not doing high school sports on the YouTube version today. A lot of games still be played Saturday, so I'll plug that in as an audio only on the audio part for Sunday morning. It'll be one of the first segments, so you can hear that and be set from there.
Perfect.
But now that we got business out of the way, trivia question.
Trivia question for today relates to the NFL. I wore my NFL cap today. Even though the Washington football team is 2-6 going into the bye week, not doing that well, but decided to promote them with the cap this week.
Still a fun team to watch, though.
Yes, the NFL, and I didn't know this. Maybe you might, or maybe the listeners might, but they have such a thing called scoregami. Scoregami. It's a group of statistical fans, I guess, that track the history of NFL football game score results from the beginning of the NFL. And scoregami is a combination of scores, a final score that has never been done before in the NFL. This season, how many games have ended in a scoregami this year through week 8? Scoregami, which means that score, that final score, not the combination, not the sum of the two scores, but for instance, if a team wins 21-14, has that ever been done before? Yes, it's one of the most common scores. But this year in the NFL season, there's been 3 games that ended in a scoregami, meaning that final score result had never been accomplished in the NFL. One of them was Thursday night's game. That's why I'm doing this. Thursday night's game ended in a scoregami. And so the question is, how many times this season has that happened? It's not a lot.
I suppose the 2-point conversions, that happens more often down the last.
Well, now you're getting more of that because they go for 2 points and they make them. They'll go for 2 points and they don't make them. And so there's different scores out there. A lot of them include safeties and things like that. But the question is, how many times has that happened in the 2021 season?
I see. I do not have an answer for that, sir. But as you can see, before we get to that, we'll jump into our fun stuff here. Normally, gonna kick it right off with the soapbox. This is a burr I got to get out of my side.
So we're moving this up. Soapbox to lead the event.
Yes,
lead the episode. Good. Oh, I like it. It's going to be a
good on a bang. End season 2 on a bang.
Wow, the end of season 2. All right, go for it.
There it is. Aaron Rodgers, I guess, has the flu. I mean, COVID-19. And he said in a press conference earlier in the year, he'd been inoculated. Never said vaccinated. He used the word inoculated.
Okay.
He's kind of been I don't want to say herbal medicine, but he's claiming he's allergic to the vaccine and all these other things. And now he's got it. And they're all going, but wait, according to NFL things, if you're listed as unvaccinated, you're supposed to wear a mask on the sidelines and a mask when you shake hands afterwards and a mask when you go to the bathroom and everything else. Well, he doesn't do that. And now, according to the friends at ESPN, they want to have Aaron Rodgers hung in Times Square for God and everybody to see. And just because he claimed he got the jab and never did. And how dare he go around possibly infecting other people and this and that. Let's see. I'm not going to name names of players, but you all know who they are. How many NFL players have beat their wife or girlfriend and they're allowed back in after 3 weeks? That's a crime. DWI, they're suspended for a little bit. Drugs, Antonio Brown are suspended for a little bit and allowed back in. Adrian Peterson beats his kid with a stick and he's allowed back in. That's okay. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want the jab and they want to treat him like a criminal. That's wrong. He took a lifestyle choice and didn't want to. If anything, I'd fine Aaron Rodgers for that stupid man bun he wears. That's it. That should be a fine right there. Check your man card, done. But for not getting the jab, big deal. Big deal. I've always kind of respected Aaron Rodgers as a player. Never really liked or hated him. Thought his commercials are funny. He did Jeopardy, whatever. No big deal. Tons of respect for Aaron Rodgers. And yes, I know he doesn't wear number 19. It's a joke, folks. Get the picture there, see. But that would be a cool jersey to get right there. Rodgers 19 for a Packer jersey.
So, so Andy, if I'm hearing this correctly, what you're saying is players in the NFL that have actually been committed or convicted of a crime, actually crime, a criminal crime, have served their time, their suspension or whatever, and then been able to come back. Aaron Rodgers was not, as far as I know, committed any crime.
Nope. Even if you're just convicted, or not convicted, but even accused, Ray Lewis, accused of murder, found innocent, but he's still brought back, and the media made him a darling and a superstar. And, oh, we love Ray Lewis, even though he was there when someone else got murdered, and he was, in my opinion, guilty, but got off. Wow, but he's a hero. Adrian Peterson admittedly beats his kid with a stick or a switch, but that's okay. He's Adrian Peterson. We'll let him back in. I thought the media loved Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't get the jab. Shows you how important the jab is rated among media people. They don't care who you are.
They're ready to lynch the guy, it sounds like.
Well, look at the beginning of the year. That's why the Patriots let Cam Newton go. The media loved Cam Newton. He could do no wrong. Half the guys at ESPN thought Cam was the greatest thing since sliced bread. You don't hear his name anymore. You know.
So now he's treated like a pariah now.
And what's his name? Quarterback for Houston. Deshaun Watson. He's not convicted yet, still committed of a whole bunch of rotten things. Because he's not convicted yet, the NFL is still paying him his millions of dollars. They want to fine Aaron Rodgers for not wearing a stinking mask. So priorities need to be arranged in the NFL here, I think. There. I'm off the soapbox, got that done with. All Elite Wrestling. Breaking news the other day, WWE let like 18 more guys go, wrestlers, male and female, bunch of staff. Some of them are still coming out with their replies, how they're going to do either way. I only see maybe a couple joining AEW, but we'll see how the things come out. The big news out of AEW is Jon Moxley. I used to be Dean Ambrose in WWE a couple years ago. One of the big wigs at AEW. This Wednesday, he was supposed to be in a big match, but didn't. And this is not a storyline. This is real. Jon Moxley checked himself into inpatient for alcohol. So lots of respect from Moxley for doing that. What athlete mid-season, I mean, wrestling goes all year, but what athlete mid-season says, no, issue, got to check myself in. So tons of respect for Moxley on that. Hope he gets better. Hope other guys see the light. If they need help, they go get it, because even someone who was high on the horse, who was supposed to get a big title push and everything else, said, nope, this is more important. Maybe the fact him and his wife had a baby recently, things like that, helped open his eyes. I don't know. Maybe Buddy has said something. I don't know the full story. And you know what? I don't want to know the story. The only story I want to know is he's getting help, and that's great. So kudos to Mox for that. Also, wrestling news, Fandango, who now goes by Dirty Dango because he can't use that name for WWE reasons. Very good wrestler, wrestled with Tyler Breeze when he was in WWE. He's 38 years old right now, and he's doing the independents. And it said if no one signs him by 40, he'll retire. But you look at the guy, he's in great shape. He can still do a couple years here and there. The two big independents, AEW and Impact, have not reached out to him yet. And if they have, he's just kind of blown it off because it's nothing he was interested in. I think he'd be a great backstage guy later on to help out with for training and working with guys, or maybe come in for a couple of years and get a push. I'd like to see Dango back in. I don't know if he'd go by Dirty Dango if he went to one of these two or find another name. Very good talent. Unfortunately, sitting there. It's 18 guys were released. I'd still pick him over almost all of those 18 on that list. NASCAR, tomorrow's the championship. I did a preview this week on Instagram. The review of Martinsville and preview of the championship race. We get that on our Instagram at Sports and Songs. And there's the hack T-shirt. We'll see the bit. I did Instagram the video, and you'll see what I mean by the hack shirt. Order yours today. Big Ten. Let's go through some Big Ten college stuff. Start with Gopher Football. There they are in the West, leading at 4-1. We got Illinois today, or yesterday if you're listening to this tomorrow on the audio part. They got Illinois, at Iowa, at Indiana, and Wisconsin. They need to win 3 of those 4 games. Period. You look at the standings, Iowa and Wisconsin, they only got a game lead on them. They're tied with Iowa for overall record. So really the Iowa game they need to win, that's the big one. They need to, first of all, they need to beat Illinois and Indiana. They need those 2 games. Because that Bowling Green loss is biting them in the rear end hard. If they had won that game, they'd be sitting great. The Bowl Lions, they came out, they were ranked 20th in that. I guarantee if they'd beat Bowling Green, they'd be knocking on the top 10 door. But they beat Iowa and or Wisconsin. They won't be in the Bowl Championship Series, God no, but they'll get a lot of respect, especially since PJ signed another, 7-year deal extension. We're going to be a nice contending team. It'd be nice to see some other good talents come here.
Well, the interesting thing there is Iowa is in Iowa City, and there's a long history of the Gophers not doing well recently there for many years.
Right.
So if they can win that game, that's not only going to win and help them in the standings, but that's going to really push momentum to that Wisconsin game, which is at home.
Right. And here's the great thing. You see the respect for the Gophers. Look at the schedule there. This is as of even this morning. Their last 3 games of the year, they don't have a time for them yet. So that means network TV is fighting to see when they want that game on. So
Correct.
That's good.
That'll be.
Hey, you're the noon game, whatever, you're the Gophers. We've always been that. Even the Indiana game, they don't have a time yet because network games, we never know. So,
yeah, but you're right. You got to beat Illinois and Indiana regardless. A loss in any one of those scenarios is going to create the whole moot. It's going to be a moot point if they lose those 2 games.
Even if you beat Iowa and Wisconsin, it's mute. You need to beat Illinois and Indiana and at least split Iowa, Wisconsin. At least. Go for hockey. Boys lost last night in overtime to Bucky Badger. And then they got again tonight at Wisconsin. And then they got Ohio State next weekend. And the gal hockey, off this weekend. RTI. Andy, what's RTI, you ask?
No, RIT.
RIT, I'm sorry, RIT.
Yep.
It's Rochester Institute of Technology. It's a private research university. Just out there in New York, metropolitan area. The university offers undergraduate and graduate degrees, including doctoral and professional degrees, and an online master's as well. That's all from our friends at Wikipedia. After 8, if you got $30K burning a hole in your pocket, you want to go, contact Rochester Institute of Technology. So we got that. Then they got a home and home against St. Cloud coming up after that. So go for gals, sitting good. Volleyball, number 11 ranked Gopher Volleyball. Exciting win Thursday. I actually watched that game against Ohio State. That was really cool on Big Ten. So Ohio State, they beat them, so that'll help the Gophers rankings. Today they got number 25 Illinois. Next Thursday at Iowa. So the gals are lots of miles they're putting on, but there they are, 15-6 right now with a 4-game winning streak. 5-3 on the road, but that was a road win against Ohio State. So hopefully a couple more here can do good for them. Basketball, they did have that exhibition game. The boys did against Concordia St. Paul, and they beat them 80-67. And next Tuesday, Kansas City, and then the Asheville Championship. It's a little 14 tournament there. Gophers, Western Kentucky, South Carolina, and Princeton. The gals playing basketball, they had their exhibition game against Minnesota Crookston, 78-33. They won that on Halloween afternoon. Then they got Jacksonville at home. They go to Arizona State. Then home against George Washington and American. You look at the box score down there for the Crookston game. That second and third quarter, 41-7, we outscored them. I get it why you play the little schools like this. It's great for that little school to get excitement and experience too. It's a nice practice besides practicing against your own team, but wow, 78-33. It's almost like some of those college football games where they play poor schools, and they crush them 78-4. I like it, but I don't. You didn't need to list it on your schedule as an exhibition. Kind of like practice in football where the Vikings will have the Chiefs come into town for training camp. That's not an exhibition game. You're just practicing with them. Maybe list it that way. Let Crookston come down. Let them practice on the big court with you. But don't waste your time calling an exhibition game just to kind of embarrass people with numbers like that. That's me. The Beavs. Here we go. Beavers first place, 3-1. Mavs right there. Beavs next weekend at Lake Superior State for 2, and then home against Michigan Tech. So hopefully we can get some wins there and help standings wise. Lady Beav hockey today and tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday this year against number 1 Wisconsin at Madison, and then against Duluth. Lady Beavs not having a great year. Hopefully they can learn a lot from these games and bounce back next year. It's the coaching me speaking there. Beaver Football. Here is Division 2. They have super regions 1 through 4. The Beavs are 7th in their region. As you see, they're ranked 7th. So congratulations to them. Colorado School of Mines. Not mimes, mines. So read that closely. Sounds weird when you say it.
Nice.
And here's their football schedule. They got today against Northern State. Okay, you see on the schedule there it says at RV Northern State. RV means they received votes in the standings. Why they put it in there, I have no idea.
Is that what that is? I didn't know that.
They rented an RV and came down. I didn't know what that meant. I said RV. I thought, well, maybe it was a typo and no one took it off. They want something else, You know how it is with our show with the interns. You can't trust them. But no, so yes. RV means they received votes. So them, and they got you married to end the season. Then there's how their playoffs go. Excuse me. Let's just say this way for the Beavs. Let's just hope you can play in December. Love to see in the championship. Don't get me wrong. But let's play in December, boys. That'd be exciting. I got some baseball tidbits. Little thing called the World Series ended over the weekend. Like I said before, I'm glad Atlanta won, not because of the Houston cheater thing or anything else. Kind of a Freddie Freeman guy. I'm glad he got a ring. I'm glad Freddie got his ring. Kind of get him out of that. I didn't want him to be this generation's Ryan Sandberg. Great career, no ring. I didn't want that for Freddie. He's too nice a guy. He's got his championship ring now. You gotta let the Mets win it next year and step aside, Freddie. You got your ring. Here's another guy who just got a ring. Ron Washington, former Minnesota Twin player. He's played professionally since 71 through 90. He coached the Rangers to 2 World Series but never won. So after 50 years of professional baseball, he's finally got a ring. I would like to see Ronnie get another shot at managing. The Mets would be awesome, but that's just me. Pablo Sandoval got his 4th ring. He got 3 with San Francisco, but he did start the year with Atlanta, so he will get a ring. So he's got 4 now. He was
the Panda.
When he was dealt from the Braves this year, that made room for who?
Rosario. Yeah,
that's right. Very good. Glad you listen and pay attention.
The Panda has 4 rings.
He's got 4 rings now. According to some people, he should be the GOAT. Then he's got 4 rings. There's another one, Dansby Swanson. Not very many guys can say this. He's got a college and World Series championship. He got his college championship back in 2012, was it? 2014 with Vanderbilt, where he was also named the most outstanding player in that College World Series. So 7 years College World Series championship and a World Series championship for the Georgia native. So good for him. And here's another odd one. You hear brothers like years apart getting married on the same day or this and that. The exact same day, November 2nd, 5 years apart, 2 brothers won world championships. So that's pretty exciting. That's kind of
interesting.
Really odd.
I didn't know that.
What's the odds it's the same date? I mean, you both won a world championship 5 years apart. Great. Both of them were on November 2nd. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. And Trevor Plouffe, ex-Twin, back on March 31st, put that tweet out. Atlanta Braves over Houston Astros in 6.
Oh, my. That's what he said, huh? I didn't see that either. March
3rd. Now, Trevor Plouffe, I catch on some podcasts every now and then. He's a great follow on Twitter. One of his podcast stuff with some of this, though, I would not listen to in the church parking lot, if you know what I'm talking about. Trevor doesn't hold back.
Coach Trev.
He's not real bad, but he doesn't filter.
Okay.
Buster Posey is going to announce his retirement. Okay, here we go. This will be for in a couple weeks when we have our baseball special. I just wanted to pick the scab a little bit right here. Posey made a decision. He's going to resign and retire. Bad 304 this year. Now, he had a bad couple years and took last year off because of COVID and came back and had a pretty decent season. And he's turning away $22 million to retire right now, too. 12-year career. 2010 Rookie of the Year, 2012 MVP, Silver Slugger Awards, a Gold Glove, 3-time World Series champion. Finished his career as a bat 302, 158 home runs in 12 years, 729 RBIs. I'm sorry, Buster. I loved you as a player in this and that, but people are considering him for the Hall of Fame. No. I just don't know. And I'm just going to end it right there.
I do have a comment, Andy. I do think being 34 years old, what helped him make a decision to retire is that he might be playing over 35 senior men's baseball next.
Did he sign a contract with you? Are you breaking news here?
No. Just thinking he's probably getting heavily recruited.
Right.
Teams to join, possibly be a catcher in the Federal League or something.
Well, and Buster's a great athlete. Why he didn't go to first base or third or the outfield? I mean, I know that they got him there, but I don't know.
He was good. Hall of Fame.
No.
I'm sketchy on that.
Yeah. Here's some dates to remember for baseball stuff coming up. The 7th, they announced the Gold Glove winners on ESPN. The rest of these are all on MLB Network, and I'm sure MLB will have it like seconds after ESPN does it for their bragging rights. But a lot of the baseball awards are being handed out. Reliever of the Year on the 10th, Silver Slugger on the 11th. So every day it seems like another award's coming out except on weekends. So very exciting time. You can still catch it all weeknights on MLB Network and follow us on social media. You know we're going to be sharing them there. MVP awards announced November 18th. The Comeback Player of the Year, the 22nd. All MLB team, blah, 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 a lot of sponsorship stuff. First day of spring training, February 26th.
Counting down.
Opening day, March 30th. So baseball could go from March 31st to November again. God is good. The Field of Dreams game, which I'm not a big fan of, Cubs and Reds, whatever. The Little League Classic, I like that one. Red Sox and Orioles. I always like the Little League Classic one because you're getting the game to the kids. That's what it's about. The Field of Dreams game, you're getting the game to your checkbook for the networks. So the Field of Dreams game, I guess, was cool last year, whatever. But A, you weren't on the real field. B, you weren't on the real field. So there. Yes, NCAA and CBS Sports, the first bracketology came out for college basketball. Now, we're not going to update this weekly, so just relax. I'm just going to kind of save this one and see what happens later. Here's the top 2 seeds picked bracketology-wise by our friends at CBS Sports. Gonzaga, UCLA, Kansas, and Villanova are your top seeds. Then the S-curve on the way back, Michigan, Purdue, Texas, and Duke. So there we go. 2 Big Ten teams in the top 8. Yeah, we're good. The Kraken, we are your Carver County leader for Kraken Sports here. They're scheduled this week. Split, lost one to Edmonton, then they beat Buffalo the other day. Arizona this weekend. Arizona's got 1 point this year on a tie. So, God, I hope the Kraken win that game. And next Saturday, the Wild will be at the Crack House. Jordan notched the first ever franchise hat trick for the Kraken. we're going to take this opportunity to educate people. What is that? Why is it called the hat trick in hockey? So here we go. In 1858, bowler H.H. Stephenson, playing for the All England squad against a team from South Yorkshire, they were playing cricket. Cricket, not hockey, but cricket. He hit the wickets, 3 consecutive wickets, which is the stick behind there, 3 consecutive times. A collection was taken up and used to buy a hat that was presented to him in recognition of this accomplishment. The hat trick, as hockey fans know it, comes when a player scores 3 goals in a game. A natural hat trick is when a player scores 3 consecutive goals in a game.
I can't hear you, Andy.
Term originated when a Toronto businessman named Sammy Taft promoted his business by offering a hat to any player who scored 3 goals during an NHL game in Toronto. Alex Calta, a speedy forward for the Chicago Blackhawks, who back then Blackhawks was 2 words, went to Taft's shop on January 26, 1946, and took a liking to a fedora, the story goes, but he didn't have enough money to buy it. Taft ordered him the hat for free if he scored 3 goals that night against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Colton not only did that in the same game, he scored 4 goals in a 6-5 loss at the Maple Leaf Gardens. One day, and a lot of media attention to it, the hat trick, and the hat was his.
Wow.
So that's what I love, little simple stories. Okay, this is a better story than Babe Ruth calling a shot. I'm sorry. You go score 3 goals, I'll give you that hat you like. Guy goes out and scores 4. Gotta like that.
Love it.
Minnesota Wild, your local hockey team here, beat Ottawa in overtime on Tuesday. Then they are at Pittsburgh, come home for the Islanders. Then they have what we call a West Coast swing at Arizona, at Vegas, at the Crack House. 9 o'clock Central Time. So if you got nothing else going on, you want to stay up late, watch the games, God bless you, but I'll read about it the next morning. Here's the standings in the Pacific Division for hockey right now. You got Seattle down there in 7th. Not doing so well, but they're young. We'll go with that. So top 3 make the playoffs plus 2 wild card in the West. So the top 3 here would be Edmonton, Calgary, and Anaheim would be in. In the Central, the Wild would be making it right now. They have the tiebreaker over Nashville. So, and there's Arizona with 1 point this year, 1 overtime. So 0-10. They got 1 point. So both the Kraken and the Wild play them. Hopefully they could keep that 0 in the win column against Arizona. Some music news. Not much to report. They just some. In the last couple weeks, Black Veil Brides had a new album come out, The Phantom Tomorrow. It's their 6th LP from the Cincinnati glam metal 5-piece, Black Veil Brides. And also Jerry Cottrell, Alice in Chains leader, had his 3rd solo album come out since 98. Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses plays bass on it and closes out with a cover of Elton John's Goodbye. Same song that closed Elton's Madman Across the Water.
Wow, I may have to review that one, Andy.
You have to get on that.
I'll get on that.
Be a good way to start season 3.
Yes.
And just a little side note here. I've been pushing this on the Facebook. An Evening with Bruce Dickinson. An Evening with Bruce Dickinson at the theater there in Minneapolis. Tickets $65.50 and $37.50. Now, if you've seen the video, you've actually clicked on the video that we've put on the Facebook. I appreciate it. Bruce is not singing songs. It's not a solo night of Bruce Dickinson singing main songs. It's a spoken word. He's telling stories and not really Iron Maiden stories. He's just doing a spoken word thing.
Interesting.
Kind of interesting. For me, not $65 interesting. Not even really $37.50 interesting. Love you, Bruce. I'll watch it on YouTube. November 5th, 1971. After Elvis Presley sat at the Met Center in Bloomington, Minnesota, the announcer, Al Devorian, tells the crowd, Elvis has left the building. The phrase soon enters the cultural lexicon, uses a signal that the event is truly over. That, my friends, is my last bit.
That's awesome.
Elvis has left the building in Minneapolis.
1971.
That means he's one of us now.
Yes.
But that's what I got. Started with Aaron Rodgers, ended with Elvis. How's that for a bookend?
That's very, very good. Here at Sports and Songs, I'm not surprised. It's good coverage. We're educational, you know.
Everything. All people do is learn when they listen to this. I should flip my tassel to the other side because I just don't get one of those doctorate rules.
Now, speaking of learning, the trivia question for today
Yes.
has
Thinking
something
about that now. Okay, the game Thursday was what? 30-45 was Thursday's score?
Yes.
Okay. And also with overtime, where you only get 6 points now, you don't have to go for that extra field goal at the end stuff. I wonder if that's are any of these overtime games or if had goofy scores?
It could be. I didn't research that for the topic today.
Okay. So what is the answer?
I didn't hear the answer back from the intern yet on that. But the trivia question, we always like to learn things here at Sports and Songs. I didn't know this. I'm sure some of the listeners out there did. But if you look at scoregami in the NFL, scoregami, just like origami, it's scoregami is when a game finishes and the final score is something, a score that has never happened in the NFL before. So Thursday night's game finished 45-30 final score. Now, I would have thought that score had
it doesn't seem that.
It's very common, I thought, but it never had. So there's this team out there of statistical nerds, I'll call it, that track this stuff. Well, early in the season, there was a 31-5 final score. Now that makes sense.
Yeah.
31-5. Interesting. But earlier in the season, there was another one. So the answer is 3. There was 3 times this season a scoregami took place, which is a final score in the NFL football regular season game that has never happened in the history of the NFL. So overall, there has been 1,069 score combinations in the history of the NFL. And so what this group does is they look for these odd scores and they track them. When the game's in the third or fourth quarter, they'll start tweeting that we may have a scoregami coming up, and they get all excited about this. So there's a Twitter account to follow called NFL Scoregami. But anyway, that's a trivia question. I was not aware of this, Andy, nor did I really care, I guess.
Right.
I like the 31-5 score. That's interesting, but 45-30, I just had assumed that had taken place.
Yeah, I'd have bet money that it happened. Yeah. So
that's the trivia question. The answer is 3. Now, last year there was 12. So this is not as rare as people think. Of course, as we go on, it's going to thin out and it's going to become very rare. So it's maybe something to follow in the future, but there's a handful every year of scores that end in a never before combination that the NFL has ever seen. So I thought I'd bring that up for the trivia question. Some may like it. Some may roll their eyes. Some may already know the answer, but.
I see if it was baseball, stat nerds like us would be all over that. So I'm sure there's some football stat nerds who follow that. And I say nerds with pride. I say nerds
guys will follow. These guys will follow anything random like this.
That's right. Yes. And you know what the sad thing is? Those guys at Scoregami are probably making more than you and I combined.
They're big statistical
that's the sad part.
Nerds, but it's awesome. People like that stuff.
Yep.
Nerds in a good way, I'll say.
Yes. Like I said, I say it with pride. When I say baseball nerd, I say that with pride. Not ashamed of it. But I know we mentioned the Jerry Cantrell album that's going to be on your list here of things to do, but what about this week's album, sir?
This week's album review is So Far, So Good, So What by Megadeth. This album is a third studio album by American heavy metal band Megadeth, released January 1988 on Capitol Records. So Far, So Good, So What features music performed at fast tempos with technical ability. Lyrically, frontman Dave Mustaine addresses a variety of topics in the lyrics, including nuclear holocaust, and freedom of speech. This album, 34 minutes and 26 seconds long, it's considered thrash metal for the genre and was certified platinum. So this came out in 88. Now, Dave Mustaine, of course, was with originally Metallica. They went split ways and fired him. He started his own band called Megadeth. Now, there was 2 new members of the band for this album. They got rid of Chris Poland, the guitarist, and drummer Gar Samuelson following the previous album. So they got some new guys here. But the interesting thing is here to help make the decision to fire these two. One of them was Chris Poland was fired because he had a bad habit of pawning band equipment to help pay for drugs. So they said, you know what, that's not too cool. They let him go. But I've got some other good stories here with Megadeth. They always have good stories. Now, they got rid of the previous drummer, replaced him with the drum tech. The drum technician was Chuck Baylor. And he stepped up on the depth chart to the number one drummer, and he took over there. The guitarist was replaced by Jeff Young, who was a guitar teacher. So he became the new guitarist. Now, when they got time to get the recording done and they went to mix it, they hired Paul Lanny. Paul Lanny did the mixing on this, and Dave Mustaine used him on the previous album to do the mixing. But it didn't end well for this album. Mustaine was initially skeptical of using him, but later became very irate and fired Lanny during the mixing process. Lanny suggested they head up north to Bearsville Studios in Woodstock, New York to get the mixing done. Ostensibly to get away, go to the woods, and just get this all hacked out. And they said, we're going to relocate to do this. Well, Mustaine decided that he had his limits with him and fired him the next day after he woke up one morning, was making coffee at this cabin, and noticed Lanny outside in his underwear feeding an apple to a deer. He says, you know what, we're done. We're done. He flew back the next day and said, we got to get a new guy to produce here. And so they've always had these types of random issues with this band. Now, the other thing that I liked about this album, it's the first time they used someone other than Dave Mustaine to write the lyrics and the music. They brought in bassist Dave Ellefson to
Local boy.
And he's a local guy from Jackson, Minnesota. So I wanted to bring that up. And he was credited with the lyrics on half the songs on this album. So they really got Ellefson involved, who is a bright guy, very, very bright guy. Now, here's the songs, the track listings. Into the Lungs of Hell. It starts off with that instrumental. Very good. And song 2 is Set the World Afire. Now, Mustaine wrote this, Set the World Afire, when he was fired by Metallica. This is the very first song he wrote. When he was on a bus heading back to California after getting fired, he put this lyrics together. It took, the third album for it to finally appear on an album, but he wrote this. It deals with the nuclear holocaust. A little bit there on the cover of the album. Song 3 is Anarchy in the UK. They did this cover song, Sex Pistols, and actually got Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols plays the second solo in this album, on this song, Steve Jones from the actual Sex Pistols appears. Now, song 4 is Mary Jane. Mustaine wrote this with Dave Ellefson. And it's not Mary Jane, it's not a song about marijuana, but it's a song about a true story, allegedly, about a woman named Mary Jane in Jackson, Minnesota, that was allegedly a witch back in the 1800s. She was beheaded along with 2 other witches back in the day and buried at a cemetery at Loon Lake, Minnesota. Loon Lake Cemetery out in Jackson is this true story, allegedly, where this 3 witches were buried. And before they were killed, this Mary Jane says, anyone who disturbs this tomb, gravestone, headstone marker, my site, there's going to be a spell on them that they'll die within 3 days. So it created a lot of this ghost lore of people having bad events at this cemetery. It almost became haunted. And Ellefson knew this so well from living in Jackson. They incorporated it into the song, and it's called Mary Jane. Listen to the lyrics. It's very interesting. Next song is 502. 502 is about breaking laws and driving fast cars. The title of this song is a reference to police code in California for drunk driving. Mustaine himself would be arrested in March of 1989 when he crashed into a police car. They tested him. He was, of course, drunk. Bad move by Mustaine. Once again, these stories that come out of Megadeth are almost better than any other band. Song 6 is In My Darkest Hour. Now, Mustaine wrote this. It's the first song in their 3 albums that they put together that he actually tackles emotional lyrics. It deals with loneliness and isolation. Usually the Megadeth songs are right kind of in-your-face songs, but he tackles some emotional lyrics. Now, the other reason for In My Darkest Hour, it was written shortly after the death of Metallica bassist Cliff Burton. Now, Mustaine was fired from the band, didn't even hear about it, and he heard about the death of Burton in word of mouth. He never heard about it from the band directly. He had to find about the tragic event that occurred in Europe. And he recalls being extremely unhappy that day when Cliff Burton died, when he found out about it, and then wrote that song in one single setting. He wrote the lyrics to In My Darkest Hour about Cliff Burton and what he was dealing with. Now the song Liar, the very next song, and the final song is Hook and Mouth. Hook and Mouth deals with censorship, the topic of censorship, kind of dealing with the PMRC back in the 80s with Tipper Gore and whatnot, deals with that. But Liar, the song Liar is about Chris Poland, the guy they had to fire the guitarist after they found out he was hawking equipment for the band to pay for his drugs. Mustaine claimed that Poland was stealing guitars and selling them for heroin money. Now, you can't make this stuff up. Hired him going to pawn shops with the band's equipment. Now, the tour of this is also a personal a note here. Megadeth started performing the songs live after the album was released. They started touring with bands such as Creator and Overkill at a number of European venues. Kind of small acts, didn't draw that much. But once they got in touring as a headliner with Testament and Sanctuary. But later in 1988, the group made an appearance at the Monsters of Rock Festival. And then later, they toured with Dio. They toured with Dio on a North American tour to really get some good exposure. I attended that concert myself. Megadeth opened for Dio. And that was 1989. I remember that very well as a good show as well. But the personnel band is made up of Dave Mustaine, lead vocals, Dave Ellefson, bass, Jeff guitar, Jeff Young on the guitar. He was the guitar coach or teacher at one point, was signed on to be the lead guitarist, Jeff Young. And then Chuck Baylor on drums was the drum tech for the first couple of albums for the drummer. Steve Jones does appear from the Sex Pistols as the guitar solo on Anarchy in the UK. Anarchy in the UK. It got good reviews. The album went platinum. It's good to listen to. I'm going to go back now after learning about some of these songs. In particular, Mary Jane. I didn't know about the paranormal events there at a cemetery, the Loon Lake Cemetery in Jackson, Minnesota, that's haunted. A lot of people go there for the paranormal, and it's because these 3 witches are buried there. One of them in particular, Mary Jane, made that spell to say, don't mess with this. And now to this day, a lot of those headstones are gone, tipped over, not taken care of. There's not a lot of the headstones that even remain because of vandalism over the years at that place. But
people messed with them, that's why.
They really mess with them, and things happen, but who knows if they're paranormal or not. But I wanted to bring it up here in this episode. Very interesting nonetheless. Minnesota connection, once again, just like the Elvis music ties back to Minnesota.
You know, you talk about the stories with Megadeth songs. You kind of go back. I've been doing a lot of research on Iron Maiden lately because it's Bruce Dickinson thing. If you really listen to a lot of their songs, good historical stories in there. They're not just words. Run for the Hill, stuff like that.
Yeah, the lyrics, you You got to
Listen
go
to
through and
those
read the
songs.
lyrics to a lot of the Iron Maiden stuff and do your homework. There's a lot of meaning to those, a lot of
Yep.
historical references.
Yeah, it's educational music.
Very educational. Now, I want to review the Jerry Cantrell album sometime in season 3. I'm interested. I'm a big Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell. I've seen him a couple times in concert, in person. Good stuff. I'm interested to see what that entails. I didn't know about that album being done, actually. So thank you for that.
That's why I'm here. I got you.
Education, folks.
Yes. That's what we do.
I did like the Paul Lanny mixing out in Bearsville.
Yeah.
They found him outside in his underwear feeding an apple to a deer, and Mustaine says, "Okay, you know what? I'm done. This is serious. I'm up making coffee, trying to get up to focus for the day, and you're outside feeding a deer in your underwear."
You're out there being Sleeping Beauty, feeding Bambi an apple.
Totally not surprised. But their previous album was very good. Peace Sells, Who's Buying Them? I already reviewed that. And then their next album could be a potential review too. They did Rust in Peace in 19.
That's a good one.
That's a good one too. That'll make its way into the reviews in season 3, I'm assuming, as well.
Yes.
That's all I've got for this week.
Like I said, well, a couple weeks we'll have a special coming up. Next week will be a regular show, season 3 kickoff. But 2 weeks from now, we're going to have our little mini baseball roundtable. Town Ball Tuesday will be joining us again. That one, we'll do 2 episodes. We'll have that, then we'll have our regular episode. So double dip that week there.
Double dip. It's scheduled for November 20th, Saturday the 20th. A little roundtable baseball discussion. Now I'm going to be. I did my last midweek episode on baseball. It's kind of my topic all season long on midweek episodes on baseball. I rolled off, finished that, and finished for the season. Kind of did a wrap up. As now I'm going to get into college women's basketball. Focus on the local players, basically covering UConn, Lehigh University, and Iowa Hawkeyes with the local talent. Women's basketball on some very good teams. That's all going to kick off. A lot of these games kick off next week. Lehigh starts on Tuesday.
Yep. Yes. That's all we got. 2 years down, more to go.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
Yeah.